Purrfectly Pretend. A Forever Yours romance. Written by Susanne. Please like and subscribe. Chapter 1. Josie. Ms. Monroe. I hear something crying. I look up from helping Lily tie her shoe to see Mason press his ear against the chain-link fence that borders the playground. His small face scrunches in concentration, and I know that expression well enough to realize he won't be distracted by the kickball game happening behind us. What kind of crying? I ask, straightening up and brushing playground mulch from my pale blue dress. Spring in Juniper Falls means beautiful weather but unpredictable temperatures, and today's unexpected warmth has me regretting my choice of cardigan. Like tiny baby cries. Mason's voice drops to a whisper as I approach. Over there, in the bushes. I strain to hear above the cheerful chaos of 24-second graders enjoying recess. I'm about to suggest we check after the break, when a faint sound catches my attention. It's high-pitched and desperate. Ms. Wallace, I call to my teaching assistant, who's mediating a heated debate about whose turn it is on the swings. Could you watch the class for a minute? We might have a situation. She nods, and I turn back to Mason, whose eyes are wide with concern. Stay on this side of the fence, I tell him, trying to sound authoritative despite the curiosity bubbling up inside me. I'll check it out. The meowing grows louder as I skirt around the fence to the overgrown area behind the playground. Honeysuckle vines tangle with wild blackberry bushes, creating a thorny barrier that snags at my dress. I should probably call the janitor. Or animal control. Or someone more qualified than an elementary school teacher whose experience with animals is limited to the class hamster, Herbert. But the pitiful cries continue, and I find myself pushing deeper into the thicket. Hello? I call softly, feeling ridiculous. Kitty? A particularly insistent meow guides me forward until I spot a flash of movement beneath a fallen log. Crouching down, I brush aside leaves and peer into the shadows. Oh my stars. 5 tiny kittens, so small their eyes aren't even open yet, huddle together in what appears to be a hastily made nest of grass and twigs. They're squirming, their pin-sized mouths opening in desperate mews that break my heart. Where's your mama? I murmur, scanning the area for signs of an adult cat. Nothing. Just these helpless little creatures, abandoned or orphaned. Ms. Monroe. Mason calls from the fence. Did you find something? I did, I answer, still searching for any sign of a mother cat. Mason, have you seen any adult cats around the school lately? No, ma'am. He shakes his head emphatically. Just Mr. Whiskers, and he lives at the hardware store. The bell rings, signaling the end of recess. Mason's face falls. We have to help them, he insists. We will, I promise, making a split-second decision that I'll probably regret. You go line up with the class. I need to make a call. As the children file back inside, I dial the office on my cell. Marjorie? It's Josie. I need a favor. I explain the situation, and thankfully, our principal is an animal lover. Within minutes, she's arranged for Ms. Wallace to combine our class with Mr. Peterson's for their scheduled art lesson. I return to the kittens, who seem even smaller and more fragile in the dappled sunlight. Their tiny bodies barely fill my palms as I gently scoop them up. They're warm, at least, which I hope is a good sign. What am I supposed to do with you? I whisper. My phone is already open to a search page, what to do with abandoned kittens. The results are overwhelming. They need special formula, consistent warmth, and help eliminating. They need their mother. I slip off my soft mint cardigan and carefully wrap the kittens inside, creating a makeshift nest. Their cries soften as I cradle the bundle against my chest. It's okay, I murmur, knowing full well I'm the least qualified person to be making this promise. We're going to get you help. Dr. Anderson, the town vet, will know what to do. He's been caring for Juniper Falls pets since before I moved here 6 years ago. He'll probably laugh at my worried expression. He always does when I bring Herbert in for his annual checkup. I hope he'll help these little ones. My Honda Civic seems inadequate as I place the cardigan bundle on the passenger seat with great gentleness. The drive to Anderson Veterinary Clinic takes exactly 7 minutes. I count every second, fully aware of the tiny lives almost literally in my hands. Main Street is busy with the usual midday traffic. I spot Aunt Hazel coming out of novel sips with her afternoon tea, and she waves enthusiastically. I manage a tight smile in return, too focused on my mission to stop for our usual chat. The familiar blue and white sign of Anderson Veterinary Clinic comes into view. I park haphazardly, one wheel definitely over the line, and carefully gather my precious cargo. The kittens have gone suspiciously quiet. Please be okay, I whisper to the bundle. I'm getting you help right now. I push through the door with my hip, the bell jingling cheerfully above me. The waiting room is empty except for a man behind the reception counter, who's definitely not Dr. Anderson. He's tall with dark hair that looks slightly rumpled, as if he's been running his fingers through it in frustration. His blue button-down shirt has the sleeves rolled up to reveal tanned forearms, and he's organizing a stack of patient files with methodical precision. When he looks up, I'm momentarily caught off guard by warm brown eyes that contrast with his otherwise serious expression. "Can I help you?" he asks, his voice deep and professional. I shift the cardigan bundle in my arms, and one of the kittens lets out a thin, plaintive cry in response. I found these kittens abandoned by the elementary school playground. No mother in sight. I was expecting Dr. Anderson. Understanding dawns in his eyes as he steps around the counter. Dr. Anderson is on sabbatical for 3 months. I'm Dr. Grayson Hayes, covering his practice while he's away. He moves closer, his demeanor shifting from polite professionalism to genuine concern as he peers at my bundle. "How long ago did you find them?" "About 20 minutes, I explain, carefully unwrapping the cardigan to reveal the 5 tiny bodies. Their eyes aren't even open yet. "Let's get them into the exam room." He gently takes the bundle from me, his hands capable and sure as he cradles the kittens. "They'll need immediate care." I follow him through the door marked Exam Room 1, relieved to have found help despite the unexpected change in veterinarians. "Will they be okay?" "That depends on several factors," he says, carefully placing them on a warming pad he quickly sets up on the exam table. "How long they've been without their mother, their overall health, whether they're dehydrated." He begins examining each tiny body with gentle expertise, explaining what he's looking for as he works. I'm about to ask more questions when the bell above the front door chimes loudly. "Excuse me for a moment," Dr. Hayes says, his focus still on the smallest kitten. "You can stay with them." But before he can leave the exam room, a familiar voice calls out, "Hello? Anybody here?" My stomach drops. Mrs. Peterson, my aunt next-door neighbor, gardening club president, and self-appointed town crier. If there's gossip in Juniper Falls, Mrs. Peterson either started it or spread it, usually with the best intentions and worst accuracy. "Mrs. Peterson," Dr. Hayes steps out of the exam room. "I'm Dr. Hayes, covering for Dr. Anderson while he's away. How can I help you?" I peer around the doorframe to see Mrs. Peterson, basket in hand, blinking up at the new veterinarian with obvious appreciation. "Well, no one told me Dr. Anderson's replacement was so handsome." She gives him a once-over that makes me cringe. "I brought you some homemade preserves as a welcome gift." "That's very kind, thank you," Dr. Hayes says, accepting the basket with polite reserve. I try to duck back into the exam room before she notices me, but no such luck. "Josie Monroe!" Mrs. Peterson exclaims, her voice rising with delight. "What on earth are you doing here? Nothing wrong with that class hamster, I hope?" "No, Herbert's fine," I say, reluctantly stepping fully into view. "I found some abandoned kittens at school." "Oh, you poor dear." She bustles forward to peek at the exam table. "Look at those tiny little things. Such a blessing they found their way to you." Dr. Hayes returns to the kittens, resuming his examination. I hover awkwardly, hoping Mrs. Peterson will drop off her preserves and leave, but she shows no signs of departure. Josie, I was talking to your aunt yesterday, she says, her eyes lighting up in a way that makes my heart sink. Hazel mentioned there's a new librarian she thinks would be perfect for you. He's a big history buff from what I hear. My cheeks burn. Not again. That's thoughtful of her. Such a lovely man, Mrs. Peterson continues enthusiastically. Divorced, but no children, and Hazel says he reads poetry in his spare time. Wouldn't that be nice? After that disaster with what's his name last year. The one with the motorcycle and all those tattoos? Craig, I supply weekly, wishing the floor would open up and swallow me whole. Dr. Hayes's hands pause briefly in their examination of the kittens, and I can feel his curiosity despite his neutral expression. Yes, him. Mrs. Peterson waves dismissively. Hazel was saying that it's been too long since you've given someone a chance. She's worried you'll end up alone with just that hamster for company. Something inside me snaps. Maybe it's the genuine concern in her voice that makes it worse, or the fact that my love life has apparently been the topic of discussion yet again, or simply that I'm standing here covered in playground mulch holding orphaned kittens while a handsome stranger listens to my pathetic dating history. Before I can think better of it, I step closer to Dr. Hayes and slip my hand through the crook of his arm. Actually, Mrs. Peterson, Aunt Hazel won't need to worry about setting me up anymore. Dr. Hayes's arm tenses beneath my touch. His eyes dart to mine, confusion evident. Oh? Mrs. Peterson's eyebrows practically reach her hairline. I lean slightly into his side, a gesture that feels far too natural for comfort. I'm seeing someone now. I squeeze his arm gently, meeting his gaze with what I hope conveys a desperate plea. Right, honey? To his credit, Dr. Hayes recovers quickly, his momentary surprise smoothing into something unreadable. Right, he says after what feels like an eternity but is probably only a second or two. You're dating the new veterinarian? Mrs. Peterson's voice rises with delighted scandal. Since when? How did you meet? Does Hazel know? It's fairly recent, I improvise, my hand still on his arm. We're taking things slow. We met through a mutual friend in Burlington, Dr. Hayes adds smoothly, and I feel a rush of gratitude. When I found out I'd be coming to Juniper Falls, I reached out to Josie. How wonderful. Mrs. Peterson clasps her hands together, practically vibrating with excitement. Wait until I tell Hazel. She'll be over the moon. A doctor. And so handsome. We were hoping to keep it quiet for now, I say quickly, realizing just how fast this lie is snowballing. You know, until we've had more time together. Of course, of course. Mrs. Peterson nods with exaggerated understanding, though her expression makes it clear this information will be distributed to the entire town by nightfall. Your secret is safe with me. Dr. Hayes makes a small noise that might be a suppressed laugh. I should let you get back to those kittens, Mrs. Peterson says, backing toward the door. So happy for you, Josie dear. And you, she points at Dr. Hayes, take good care of our girl. She deserves someone special. The bell jingles as she leaves, and I immediately drop my hand from his arm, mortification washing over me in a hot wave. I am so sorry, I blurt out, stepping away. I don't know what came over me. It's just, my Aunt Hazel has been trying to set me up with every single man between 25 and 40 in a 50-mile radius, and Mrs. Peterson was about to report back that I'm still pathetically single, and then it would be another blind date disaster, and I stop, realizing I'm rambling. I'm really sorry. Dr. Hayes looks at me for a long moment, and I brace myself for anger or offense. Instead, his mouth quirks slightly at one corner. You do realize she's going to tell your aunt immediately, he says, turning back to the kittens. I know. I cover my face with my hands. This is so embarrassing. I normally don't go around claiming random men are my boyfriend. I swear I'm not usually this impulsive. Good to know. There's a hint of amusement in his voice now. Although, to be fair, we're not exactly strangers anymore, according to Mrs. Peterson. I peek through my fingers to find him gently examining the smallest kitten, a tiny black ball of fluff that fits in his palm. Despite the absurdity of the situation, I'm struck by the contrast between his large hands and the delicate care he's taking. Your aunt is going to expect to meet me, he points out. And given what you've told me about small towns, I'm guessing that's going to happen sooner rather than later. I'll fix this, I promise. I'll call her right away and explain that Mrs. Peterson misunderstood. Or that it was a joke. Or that I've lost my mind, which might actually be the truth. He carefully places the black kitten back with its siblings and turns to face me fully. I take it your aunt's matchmaking efforts haven't been successful? That's putting it mildly. I grimace. The last guy talked about his model train collection for 2 hours. The one before that asked if I'd consider converting to his obscure religion. And let's not even mention Craig with the motorcycle. The one with all the tattoos, he asks innocently. Exactly. Despite everything, I find myself smiling. Not my finest dating chapter. Dr. Hayes, and I really should start thinking of him as Dr. Hayes and not as my fake boyfriend, considers me for a moment, his expression thoughtful. Well, dealing with the fallout from this misunderstanding is a problem for another day. Right now, these kittens need our attention. Our attention? I repeat. They're going to need around-the-clock care, he explains, shifting back into professional mode. Feeding every 2 hours, help with elimination, consistent warmth. It's intensive work for one person. Oh. I hadn't considered the practical aspects of rescue. I was planning to take them home, but I don't really know what I'm doing. I can show you the basics, he offers. But these first 48 hours are critical. I can keep them here overnight for monitoring, but they'll need continued care. Are you sure you're up for it? I look at the tiny creatures, so vulnerable and dependent. I found them, I say with more confidence than I feel. I should help them. Admirable, but impractical on your own. He picks up a clipboard and starts making notes. I could check on them between appointments, if. If what? I prompt when he trails off. He meets my gaze, and something shifts in his expression. If you're willing to maintain our little charade for a while. Our charade? I repeat, confused. The boyfriend situation, he clarifies. I'm new in town and could use someone to show me around, introduce me to the right people. Dr. Anderson's clients need to feel comfortable with me if I'm going to maintain the practice properly during my time here. He shrugs, almost casual. And it sounds like you could use a break from your aunt's matchmaking. I stare at him, trying to process what he's suggesting. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement, he says, as if proposing a business deal. How would this even work? I ask, not quite believing I'm entertaining the idea. We establish some ground rules. A reasonable timeline. A story about how we met that doesn't involve abandoned kittens and impulsive lies. His tone is practical, almost clinical. Basic parameters for a temporary arrangement. Temporary, I repeat. The word grounds me somehow. Because you're only here for 3 months. He nods. Exactly. After that, I return to Boston, you tell everyone we decided we're better as friends, and life goes back to normal. I should say no. This is the kind of scheme that creates more problems than it solves. And yet.
Chapter 2. Gray. Josie Monroe's hand still feels warm in mine, even after she's let go. I flex my fingers reflexively, processing what just happened. One moment I was examining abandoned kittens, and the next I was suggesting a fake relationship with a woman I'd met less than 30 minutes ago. It's not like me to be impulsive. I plan. I analyze. I consider variables and potential outcomes. And yet, hearing the genuine distress in her voice as she explained her aunt's relentless matchmaking efforts, something in me had responded before my rational mind could intervene. So, Josie says, breaking into my thoughts. The kittens? Right. The kittens. They need warmth, hydration, and nutrition, I explain, grateful to return to familiar territory. I gesture to the smallest one, a black ball of fluff barely bigger than my palm. This one concerns me the most. showing signs of dehydration. She moves closer, carefully stroking the tiny head with one finger. Will she make it? She? I raise an eyebrow. Just a feeling, Josie says with a small smile. She looks like a fighter. I find myself returning the smile, surprising myself. Then we'll do our best to help her fight. I reach for a tiny syringe and the rehydration solution I prepared. First priority is getting fluids into them. Watch closely. You'll need to do this every few hours. For the next 20 minutes, I walk her through the basics of neonatal kitten care, proper feeding technique, how to stimulate elimination, temperature management. Josie takes it all in with focused attention, asking intelligent questions and taking notes in a small floral notebook she pulls from her bag. I feel like I should be recording this, she admits, watching me demonstrate how to check for dehydration. There's so much to remember. It's overwhelming at first, I acknowledge. But you'll get the hang of it quickly. How do you know so much about kittens? She asks. I would have thought large animal medicine was more common for rural vets. I hesitate, not usually one to share personal details, but something about her direct gaze makes deflection feel inappropriate. I spent some time volunteering at a city shelter. Kitten season was brutal. So you're an expert, she says, looking relieved. I wouldn't go that far. But I've had some experience. I gather the necessary supplies and pack them into a cardboard box. As I work, I'm acutely aware of Josie watching me, her expression a mix of gratitude and lingering embarrassment. So, she says finally, should we talk about the other thing? Our new relationship status? I keep my tone light, though the reality of what we've agreed to is starting to sink in. I suppose we should establish some parameters. Parameters, she repeats, a hint of amusement in her voice. You make it sound so clinical. I prefer to think of it as practical. I close the box of supplies and lean against the counter, suddenly feeling the need to explain myself. Look, I know this is unconventional, but I meant what I said about mutual benefit. You really think pretending to date will help you professionally? She sounds skeptical. Small towns run on relationships and trust, I say, thinking of my grandfather's practice in Kentucky. Dr. Anderson has spent decades building connections with his clients. I'm an outsider coming in for just 3 months. That's a difficult position to navigate. She nods slowly. People don't open up to strangers easily here. Exactly. And I need this placement to go well. I hesitate, not usually one to reveal my professional concerns, but she deserves honesty if we're entering this arrangement. The reference from Dr. Anderson will be crucial for my next position. A fellowship at Westwood Veterinary Hospital in Boston. That sounds impressive. It's highly competitive, I admit. Only 2 openings each year, and they want vets who can demonstrate both technical skills and patient rapport. The latter being harder to quantify on paper. So you need the townspeople to like you, she summarizes. And apparently, being my boyfriend gives you an immediate in with half the population. Your aunt sounds very connected, I observe. Aunt Hazel is the heart of this town. Josie sighs, but there's obvious affection in her voice. She's lived here her whole life. Runs the library, organizes most community events, and knows literally everyone. And she's determined to see you settled, I add, recalling Mrs. Peterson's comments. Josie groans, covering her face briefly. You have no idea. Aunt Hazel's made it her mission to find me a nice young man. Her words, not mine. I take it the candidates haven't been to your liking? The last guy brought his mother along on our date, she says flatly. She ordered for him. I can't help the laugh that escapes me. He didn't. He absolutely did. Josie shakes her head, her own laughter joining mine. After that one, I told Hazel I needed a break from dating, but she's persistent. Hence the desperate measures, I say, gesturing between us. Exactly. She sobers slightly. Are you sure about this? Once Mrs. Peterson spreads the word, we'll have to keep up appearances all over town. The truth is, I'm not entirely sure. My life operates on carefully constructed routines and professional boundaries. Fake relationships don't fit anywhere in my usual paradigm. But then there's the reality of my first week in Juniper Falls. The polite but reserved interactions with clients who clearly miss Dr. Anderson, the isolation of my rental cabin, the evenings spent reviewing case files because I don't know where else to go or what else to do in this town. I'm sure, I say, surprising myself with how much I mean it. I'd noticed, she says with gentle teasing. You have a bit of a. She gestures vaguely at my face. A bit of a what? A serious doctor face. She demonstrates, pulling her features into an exaggerated stern expression that looks nothing like me but makes me laugh anyway. It's intimidating. Is that so? I try and fail to look offended. Very. She nods solemnly, though her eyes are bright with humor. Luckily, as your new girlfriend, I can help with that. My fake girlfriend, I correct, feeling the need to maintain some clarity. Of course. Something flickers across her face too quickly to interpret. One of the kittens mews softly, drawing our attention back to the exam table. They should be okay here overnight for monitoring, I say, adjusting the heating pad. I'll show you how to prepare the formula, and tomorrow we can set up a proper nursing station at your place. As I demonstrate the proper bottle feeding technique, Josie watching intently beside me, I find myself wondering exactly what I've gotten myself into. 3 months in Juniper Falls suddenly stretches before me, not as the professional placeholder I'd expected to be, but as Josie Monroe's boyfriend, integrated into the fabric of town life whether I'm ready for it or not. The strangest part? For the first time since arriving in this small mountain town, I'm actually looking forward to what comes next. Dr. Hayes speaking, I answer my cell while balancing Mr. Jenkins' arthritic golden retriever's chart on my knee. The morning has been relentless. 4 appointments back-to-back, and I'm already behind schedule. Dr. Hayes. This is Hazel Elliott, Josie's aunt. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important? I nearly dropped the chart. Not even 24 hours since Josie's impulsive lie, and here it is. The family follow-up. Mrs. Peterson works fast. Ms. Elliott, I manage, straightening in my chair. Not at all. What can I do for you? Please, call me Hazel. Everyone does. Her voice is warm and authoritative in equal measure. I'm calling to invite you to dinner tonight. Nothing formal, just family and a few close friends. I've been dying to meet the young man who's captured our Josie's interest. There's something pointed in the way she says captured our Josie's interest that makes me suspect she might not be entirely convinced by our charade. That's very kind of you, I say, stalling. But I wouldn't want to impose. Nonsense. It's no imposition. I always make too much food anyway. She laughs easily. Besides, you're new to town. Can't have you eating takeout every night. How does she know I've been eating takeout? I've only been to the Copper Kettle twice. 3 times, if you count the coffee I grabbed this morning. I do have evening rounds to check on the kittens, I say, which isn't exactly a lie. Josie mentioned the poor little things. Bring them along if necessary. Dinner's at 7, and my place is the Blue House on Maple Street. You can't miss it. Look for the ridiculous number of birdhouses in the front yard. I really should check with Josie first. Oh, she'll be there. She always joins us on Thursdays. It's tradition. Hazel's tone brooks no argument. So we'll see you at 7? It's not really a question. I glance at the framed photo of Dr. Anderson on the wall, his kind face smiling benevolently down at me. The man whose recommendation could make or break my fellowship application. 7 sounds perfect, I hear myself say. Can I bring anything? Just yourself, dear. And perhaps a bottle of wine if you're so inclined. Nothing fancy. After hanging up, I stare at my phone for a long moment, then dial Josie's number, which I'd programmed in yesterday for kitten emergencies. She answers on the 3rd ring, the sound of children chattering in the background. Gray? Is everything okay with the kittens? Her voice is concerned. The kittens are fine, I assure her. But I got a call from your aunt. Oh no! The background noise fades, like she's stepped away from her classroom. What did she say? How did she even get your number? I have no idea, I tell her. She invited me to dinner tonight. Said it's a Thursday tradition. It is, but, wait, tonight? Already? She sounds as panicked as I feel. I'm so sorry. This is all happening much faster than I expected. Mrs. Peterson works efficiently, I say dryly. You have no idea. Josie sighs. You don't have to go, you know. I can make excuses for you. I already accepted. I pinched the bridge of my nose, wondering what possessed me. She was very persuasive. That's Aunt Hazel. There's a note of resigned affection in her voice. Look, I really am sorry about this. It's fine, I say, though I'm not entirely sure it is. But maybe we should touch base before dinner? Go over some details so our stories align? Good idea. I'll stop by the clinic after school. Around 4? Perfect. The rest of my day is a blur of appointments. Vaccines for a litter of puppies. A senior cat with thyroid issues. A rabbit with overgrown teeth. All routine cases that should hold my complete attention, but my mind keeps drifting to the upcoming dinner. What exactly have I gotten myself into? True to her word, Josie appears at the clinic just after 4, her hair slightly windblown and a stack of papers tucked under one arm. Sorry I'm late, she says, slipping into my office. Parent-teacher conference ran long. No problem. I was just checking on the kittens. She sets down her papers and moves immediately to the makeshift incubator we set up in the back room. How are they doing? Better than expected. I join her, watching as she gently strokes the smallest one. Even this little fighter seems to be stabilizing. She needs a name, Josie muses. She? Definitely a she. I checked. My online research was surprisingly accurate. She peers at the tiny black kitten. What about Midnight? I smile to spite myself. Midnight is good. Josie names the others in quick succession. Marmalade and Ginger for the orange tabbies, Pepper for the gray one, and Patches for the calico. So, she says eventually, turning away from the kittens. Dinner with Aunt Hazel. Yes. I lean against the counter, crossing my arms. Any advice for surviving the experience? Don't let her refill your wine glass more than twice, or you'll end up telling her your entire life story. Josie's eyes crinkle with humor. And whatever you do, don't mention that you hate gardening. Duly noted. I find myself relaxing slightly. Anything else I should know about the other guests? My cousin Emily and her husband Dave will be there. They're nice, normal people, I promise. And probably Mrs. Peterson, since she's the one who blew our cover. The neighbor from yesterday? The very same. Josie grimaces. Aunt Hazel and Mrs. Peterson have been best friends since elementary school. They're practically joined at the hip. Great. I run a hand through my hair. So I'll be facing a full interrogation squad. Josie laughs, the sound unexpectedly melodic. Don't worry, I'll protect you. My hero, I deadpan, but I'm smiling too. We spend the next half hour going over our backstory, how we met through her college roommate in Burlington, reconnected when I learned I'd be coming to Juniper Falls, and have been dating officially for about a month. We keep it simple, as close to plausible truth as possible. One last thing, Josie says as she prepares to leave. Hazel will go overboard with the welcome. Just be prepared for that. Overboard how? You'll see. She grins enigmatically. Pick me up at 6:30? My place is the little yellow cottage on Elm Street. 6:30, I confirm, wondering what exactly overboard entails.
Chapter 3. Josie. Aunt Hazel's garden has always been my favorite escape. Even as a child, I would hide among her hydrangeas when the world felt too loud. Tonight, the fairy lights twinkle in the trees like captured stars, and the evening air carries the scent of her prized roses. It should be peaceful. Instead, my heart is racing as if I've just run a marathon. I'm so sorry about that, I say once we're safely out of earshot. Aunt Hazel has always been too perceptive for her own good. Gray stands with his hands in his pockets, looking surprisingly at ease for someone who just survived the Elliot family inquisition. The moonlight softens his features, making him seem less like the serious veterinarian and more like, well, someone who could actually be my boyfriend. I think we handled it well, he says, his voice quiet in the evening stillness. Your family is nice. They're overwhelming is what they are. I can't help the small laugh that escapes me. But yes, they mean well. I pause, suddenly needing him to understand. Thank you for doing this. You didn't have to. I'm actually enjoying myself, he admits, and the sincerity in his voice catches me off guard. It's been a while since I had a home-cooked meal with people who genuinely care about each other. Something in the way he says it makes me wonder about his own family. Not a big family dinner person? He shrugs, his expression closing slightly. Not exactly. A cool breeze rustles through the garden, and I wrap my arms around myself, suddenly chilled. Without hesitation, Gray slips off his jacket and places it around my shoulders, the gesture so natural it takes me a moment to register it. The weight of it is warm, carrying his scent, clean and slightly woodsy. Thank you, I say, pulling it closer. You're welcome. I force myself to focus, pushing away the strange flutter in my chest. So, I think this might actually work. The fake relationship thing. I gesture vaguely between us, trying to keep my tone light and practical. You need to connect with the town, I need Hazel off my back about dating, and the kittens need both of us. Gray nods, his expression thoughtful. I think you're right, he says. Partners? The word feels both reassuring and somehow disappointing. Partners. Clinical. Practical. Exactly what we agreed upon. Partners, I echo, smiling up at him. Our eyes meet, and something shifts in the air between us, a recognition, perhaps, that whatever this arrangement is, it's already more complicated than either of us anticipated. The fairy lights reflect in his eyes, turning them warm amber instead of their usual deep brown. There you two are. Aunt Hazel calls from the back door. Pie's ready, and I won't take no for an answer. Coming. I call back, but I don't move immediately. Instead, before I can overthink it, I stand on tiptoe and press a quick kiss to Gray's cheek. For authenticity, I whisper, my lips tingling from the brief contact with his skin. I hurry back toward the house before he can respond, his jacket still wrapped around my shoulders. It's only when I reach the back door that I glance over my shoulder to see him standing exactly where I left him, one hand raised to his cheek. Something warm unfurls in my chest, something dangerous and entirely unplanned. This is supposed to be pretend. An arrangement. Nothing more. Your boyfriend is handsome, Aunt Hazel announces as we wash dishes after dinner. Gray and Dave are in the living room discussing fishing spots, their voices a low murmur beneath Emily and Mrs. Peterson's animated conversation about the upcoming spring festival. He is, isn't he? I focus intently on scrubbing an already clean plate. Also hiding something. She hands me another dish to dry. Both of you are. I nearly drop the plate. What do you mean? Josie Monroe, I've known you since you were in diapers. You think I can't tell when you're not being completely truthful? I set down the dish towel, heart pounding. Aunt Hazel. No, no. She waves a soapy hand. I'm not asking for explanations. Not yet, anyway. She studies me, her eyes gentle despite her probing words. But whatever game you two are playing, I think the rules are changing faster than you expected. It's not a game, I protest weakly. She rinses a wineglass, her movements precise despite the skepticism in her voice. The way that boy looks at you when he thinks no one's watching? That's not pretend, sweetheart. Heat rushes to my face. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe not. She hands me the glass with a knowing smile. But I've matched 17 couples in this town, including your parents. I know the real thing when I see it starting. Gray is leaving in 3 months, I remind her, keeping my voice low. Back to Boston. His life is there. 3 months is a long time. She closes the dishwasher and wipes her hands on her apron. Long enough for plans to change. Aunt Hazel, please. There's something special about him, she says. The way he stepped in when I questioned your story? That wasn't just quick thinking. That was protective. It's complicated, I admit. The best ones always are. She winks, then picks up the coffee pot. Now, let's see if we can pry them away from their fishing talk for dessert. As we rejoin the others, Gray looks up from his conversation with Dave, his smile automatic when he sees me. It's such a simple thing, that smile, but it sends warmth spreading through me like honey. Complicated indeed. Later, as we drive back to my place to check on the kittens, Gray is quiet, his profile illuminated by passing streetlights. His jacket is still around my shoulders, I'd forgotten to return it, and he hadn't asked. Your aunt is something else, he finally says as we turn onto Elm Street. That's one way to put it, I laugh. Was it terrible? Not at all. He sounds genuinely surprised. It was nice. Really nice. Even the interrogation? Even that. He pulls into my driveway, killing the engine but making no move to get out. I think she suspects, though. I know. I sigh, leaning back against the headrest. She practically said as much while we were doing dishes. But I don't think she'll call us out. No? No. I turn to face him in the darkness of the car. I think she's enjoying the mystery too much. He laughs quietly, the sound making something flutter in my stomach. So what now? Now, I say, forcing practicality back into my voice, we establish some ground rules. Tomorrow, after we've both had some sleep. I glance at my watch. And after we check on 5 hungry kittens who are probably wondering where their dinner is. Right. Gray nods, all business again. Let's go see how our patients are doing. Novel Sips is buzzing with its usual Saturday morning crowd when Gray walks in. I've secured us a table in the corner to give us at least a little privacy. He spots me immediately, raising the to-go cup in his hand in greeting as he navigates between tables. I brought you this, he says, setting a paper cup beside my half-empty coffee. You mentioned last night you liked their chai tea lattes. The thoughtful gesture catches me off guard. Thanks. That's really nice of you. Professionally advantageous, he corrects with a hint of a smile. Can't have my fake girlfriend running on empty. Right. I take a sip to hide my inexplicable disappointment. Of course. Gray settles into the chair across from me, his posture relaxed yet somehow still maintaining that subtle professional distance. He's wearing jeans and a blue button-down that makes his eyes look warmer than usual. Less clinical. More dangerous to my emotional well-being. So, he says, pulling a small notebook from his pocket. Ground rules. Leave it to Gray to bring an actual notebook to formalize our fake relationship. It's exactly the kind of endearing, slightly awkward gesture that's making this whole arrangement more complicated than it should be. Ground rules, I echo, straightening in my chair. Let's start with the basics. We're sticking with the Burlington connection? He nods, jotting something down. Met through your college roommate when you were visiting her. Reconnected when I learned I was coming to Juniper Falls. Dating for a couple of weeks, I add. Long enough to be established but new enough that no one questions why they hadn't heard about it. Good. He makes another note. What about the physical aspects? I nearly choke on my chai. Physical aspects? Public displays of affection, he clarifies, his cheeks coloring slightly. What are we comfortable with? Hand-holding? Arm around the shoulder? That seems reasonable, I agree, trying to sound casual while ignoring the flutter in my stomach at the thought of his arm around me. Nothing excessive. Agreed. He writes that down too. And a clear end date. When my contract finishes in 3 months, we agree to part amicably. You can tell everyone we decided we're better as friends, given the distance. Perfect. The word tastes bitter in my mouth. To make it convincing, we should probably be seen together regularly. Town events, dinners, that sort of thing. I'd appreciate your guidance there, he says, setting down his pen. You know this town better than I do. Well, there's the spring planting festival next weekend. The library fundraiser the week after. Movie night in the park when the weather warms up. I count off on my fingers. Plus, we'll be seeing each other regularly for the kittens anyway. Speaking of which, how were they this morning? Good. Even little Midnight took her full bottle. I pull out my phone to show him the photo I took of all 5 kittens nestled together in their makeshift bed. I think they're getting stronger. Gray leans closer to look at the image, his shoulder brushing mine. The casual contact shouldn't affect me, but warmth spreads through me anyway. They look good, he confirms, his voice softening. Their condition is improving. You're doing a great job with them. We are, I correct him. I couldn't do this without you. Our eyes meet, and for a moment, everything else fades. The busy coffee shop. Our practical arrangement. The notebook of rules between us. Then someone calls my name, breaking the spell. Josie. I thought that was you. Maggie, the co-owner of Novel Sips, approaches our table, her gaze curious as it shifts between Gray and me. And you must be Dr. Hayes. I've heard so much about you. All good things, I hope, Gray says, standing to shake her hand. Very good things, Maggie confirms with a meaningful look in my direction. The whole town's buzzing about Josie's new boyfriend. Word travels fast, I mutter. Small towns, Gray and I say simultaneously, then share a surprised glance. Maggie laughs. Well, I won't interrupt your date. Just wanted to say hello and mention we've got that book you ordered, Josie. She winks at Gray. Romance novel. Very steamy. It's for book club. I protest, mortified. Sure it is. Maggie grins. Nice to meet you, Dr. Hayes. Don't be a stranger. As she walks away, Gray raises an eyebrow at me. Romance novel? Jane Austen, I clarify. Book club really is reading Pride and Prejudice this month. Ah. He nods seriously. Very steamy indeed. All those meaningful glances. A startled laugh escapes me. Did you just make a joke, Dr. Hayes? I've been known to, on occasion. His smile transforms his face, softening the professional mask he usually wears. Though I'd appreciate if you didn't spread that around. Might damage my serious doctor reputation. Your secret's safe with me. Our laughter mingles, comfortable and warm. We wrap up our planning session with coffee shop introductions, from the award-winning barista to Gloria who runs the writing club and heads the library board. With each handshake and smile, Gray seems to shed a layer of his professional reserve. Outside in the spring sunshine, he thanks me for the introductions. First rule of small towns. Know the key players, I tell him with a smile. Consider yourself officially networked. We pause at his car, that awkward moment of goodbye hovering between us. A sudden breeze sends a strand of hair across my face, and before I can react, Gray reaches out, gently tucking it behind my ear. His fingers linger, warm against my skin. Our eyes meet, and something electric passes between us. Sorry, he murmurs, withdrawing his hand. Habit. It's fine, I manage, my pulse thundering. Very convincing. Right. He steps back. For the audience. I glance around the empty street. There is no audience. Just us, standing too close, playing roles that suddenly feel too real. We part with promises to meet for the evening feeding, and as I watch him drive away, I press my fingers to where his touch still lingers. This is pretend, I remind myself firmly. A temporary arrangement with an expiration date.
Chapter 4. Gray. Hold still, Miss Crawford, I murmur as the golden retriever on my exam table tries to lick my face for the third time. Almost done. I finish the suture on her paw pad, grateful that retrievers are generally good patients, even when injured. Miss Crawford, Goldie to her family, had an unfortunate encounter with a broken bottle at the lake shore. There we go. I secure a bandage and step back. Keep the bandage dry for 48 hours, then bring her back to have the stitches checked. Thank you, Dr. Hayes, Frank Crawford says, patting his dog's head. Sarah at the diner said you were the best thing to happen to this town since they repaved Main Street. I smiled to spite myself. 2 weeks in Juniper Falls, and I'm already part of the local gossip ecosystem. Just doing my job. And that teacher you're seeing? Josie Monroe? Frank continues, helping Goldie down from the table. She's a good one. Taught my grandson Tommy last year. That boy couldn't read to save his life until Miss Monroe got hold of him. She's special, I say, the words feeling strangely honest despite our arrangement. After Frank and Goldie leave, I update the patient file and glance at the clock. Almost 5. The past few days have settled into an unexpected rhythm, clinic hours, shared kitten feedings at Josie's place, and more integration into Juniper Falls life than I'd experienced in 2 weeks than I'd managed in 2 years at my old job. My cell phone rings, Dr. Anderson's name flashing on the screen. Dr. Anderson, I answer, straightening instinctively though he can't see me. How's the sabbatical going? Magnificent. His voice booms through the speaker. Climbed halfway up a volcano yesterday. At my age. Helen thought I was crazy, but I told her, if I'm going to have a midlife crisis at 70, I'm doing it properly. I laugh, settling into the desk chair. Sounds like New Zealand agrees with you. Best decision I ever made. There's a pause. How are things at the clinic? Any disasters? Emergency surgeries? Mrs. Harrington driving you to distraction yet? Everything's running smoothly, I assure him. Mrs. Harrington and I have reached a mutual understanding. Miracle worker, he chuckles. And the town? Getting to know everyone? Actually, yes. I hesitate, unsure how much of my personal situation to share. I've been seeing someone. It's helped me connect with the community. Seeing someone? His interest is immediate. Not Josie Monroe, by any chance? Hazel's niece? I blink in surprise. How did you? Small town, son. He laughs again. Besides, I've had Josie pegged as perfect for you since I knew you were coming. Smart woman, big heart, loves animals. Something warm unfurls in my chest, followed immediately by a cold dose of reality. This isn't real. Josie isn't my type, she's my partner in a mutually beneficial arrangement that has an expiration date. It's still new, I say carefully. Well, don't let a good thing slip away, he advises. Especially not for that fellowship in Boston. I know it's prestigious, but there are other ways to build a fulfilling career. The fellowship. The reason I took this position. The next step in my meticulously planned professional path. The fellowship is still the goal, I say, my voice firmer than intended. I'm only covering until you return. Of course, of course. But there's something knowing in his tone that makes me uncomfortable. I'm keeping my options open. Helen and I are thinking about extending our travels. Maybe even semi-retirement. The practice would need someone permanent. My grip tightens on the phone. Dr. Anderson. Just thinking out loud, he says easily. No decisions yet. Anyway, I should go. Helen's arranged for us to go whale watching this afternoon. After we hang up, I stare at the wall calendar, with its countdown of days until my return to Boston. 3 months had seemed so manageable when I arrived. A brief interlude before returning to real life. Now, each passing day feels like both a gift and a warning. A gift because of quiet evenings with Josie and the kittens, laughter over dinner with her family, the warmth that's beginning to feel dangerously like belonging. A warning because none of it is real. Not our relationship, not my place in this town, not the domestic routine we're crafting around 5 orphan kittens. I pull up the email about the fellowship on my phone, reading it for perhaps the 100th time. The prestigious position. The cutting-edge research. The validation of everything I've worked toward. My future, waiting for me in Boston. It should center me, this reminder of my path. Instead, an image of Josie intrudes. The way she looks in the early morning light, sleepy-eyed and gentle as she feeds the kittens, the sound of her laughter, the warmth of her hand in mine. I close the email with a decisive tap. This isn't part of the plan. Juniper Falls is a temporary assignment. Josie is a temporary arrangement. And whatever this feeling is that tightens my chest when I think of her, that needs to be temporary too. I knock on Josie's door, balancing a paper bag from the copper kettle in one arm and my medical kit in the other. The evening air is cool but pleasant, carrying the scent of spring flowers from her small front garden. When she opens the door, she's wearing sweatpants and a faded university t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Somehow, she looks more beautiful like this, unguarded, genuine, than in the sundress she wore to our coffee shop meeting. "You brought food," she says, relief evident in her voice. "You're my hero. Sarah mentioned you had parent-teacher conferences all afternoon." I follow her inside, where the kitten's makeshift nursery dominates her living room. "Figured you wouldn't have time to cook." "I was contemplating cereal for dinner," she admits, taking the bag and peeking inside. "Chicken pot pie?" "Perfect." Her place is becoming familiar, the colorful throw pillows on the sofa, the overflowing bookshelves, the stack of second-grade artwork on the coffee table. It's warm and slightly chaotic, much like its owner. How are our patients doing? I set my kid down and move to the nest where the kittens are huddled together. Getting stronger by the hour, I think. Even midnight kept down our entire last feeding. I carefully lift the small black kitten, who fits in my palm less precariously than she did a week ago. Her eyes are still closed, but she squirms with noticeably more vigor as I examine her. Her hydration looks better, I note, gently checking her skin elasticity. And she's definitely gained weight. I've been following your instructions to the letter. Josie sets out our dinner on the small kitchen table, then returns to watch over my shoulder. Is she really going to be okay? The concern in her voice touches something in me. Let's check her weight to be sure. I take out the small scale from my kit and place midnight on it. The number that appears makes me smile. She's gained 15 grams since yesterday. That's significant progress. Josie's eyes widen. Really? Are you sure? See for yourself. I gesture to the scale. She leans in close, her shoulder pressing against mine as she peers at the numbers. Her hair smells faintly of apples, and I find myself distracted by her proximity. That's amazing. Without warning, she throws her arms around my neck in a spontaneous hug. We did it! She's going to make it! I freeze momentarily, then find my arms wrapping around her, returning the embrace. You did it, I correct her. Your dedication made the difference. She pulls back just enough to look at me, her face inches from mine, bright with joy. We did it together. Partners, remember? Something shifts in the air between us, a current that's been building since that moment in her aunt's garden, perhaps even before. Her eyes drop briefly to my mouth, then back up. I should step away. I should put Midnight back with her siblings and suggest we eat dinner. I should remember that this is temporary. Instead, I find myself leaning slightly closer, drawn by the warmth in her eyes, the curve of her smile, the genuine delight radiating from her over this small triumph we've shared. Her hands are still lightly resting on my shoulders. Mine have settled at her waist, as if they belong there. The soft lamp glow catches in her hair, turning ordinary blonde into something golden and precious. We're close enough now that I can feel her breath, a soft whisper against my face. Her eyes begin to close, and mine follows suit, the distance between us narrowing to nothing. A tiny, insistent mew breaks the moment. We both look down to see Midnight, still on the scale, pause waiting in protest at being forgotten. Josie laughs softly, the sound slightly breathless as she steps back. "Someone's demanding attention," she says, carefully lifting the kitten and cradling her against her chest. The spell broken, I collect my professional demeanor like a shield. "She's letting us know it's feeding time." "Right." Josie tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture I'm beginning to recognize as a nervous habit. Feeding time. We move through the familiar routine. The rhythm of it is soothing, but the tension from our almost moment lingers beneath the surface, an electric undercurrent I can't quite ignore. "The pot pie is probably getting cold," Josie says once the kittens are settled again. "I can reheat it." I step toward the kitchen, needing distance, needing air that doesn't smell like her. We eat dinner with careful conversation, discussing kitten progress and clinic cases and her second-grade students' spring projects. Normal. Safe. Nothing about the way my heart raced when she was in my arms, or how desperately I'd wanted to kiss her. As I prepare to leave later, case files waiting for review becoming my excuse, I pause at her door. "Same time tomorrow? For the kittens?" "Absolutely." She leans against the doorframe, backlit by the warm light of her home. "Gray." She studies me for a moment, then shakes her head. "Nothing. Just thank you. For dinner. For everything." I nod, suddenly unable to trust my voice.
Chapter 5. Josie. Spring rain taps gently against the windows, creating a cozy backdrop to the quiet routine Gray and I have established over the past 2 weeks. The kittens are thriving now, their eyes open and exploring their expanded world, which currently consists of a playpen in my living room. "Look at Patches go," I say, watching the calico kitten attempt to climb over her siblings to reach the small toy mouse we introduced yesterday. "She's definitely the adventurous one." Gray smiles, the expression transforming his face in a way that still catches me off guard. When he first arrived in Juniper Falls, I wouldn't have believed he was capable of such warmth. While Marmalade just wants to sleep through it all. He gently strokes the orange tabby curled in a tight ball at the corner of the pen. Reminds me of my college roommate. Could sleep through a fire alarm. "You never talk about college," I observe, settling cross-legged on the floor beside him. "Was that in Kentucky too?" "University of Kentucky for undergrad. Then Cornell for vet school." He leans back against the sofa, stretching his long legs out in front of him. The domesticity of the scene, Gray and sock feet on my living room floor, rain pattering outside, kittens playing between us, makes my heart ache with how right it feels. And how temporary it is. "What about you?" he asks. "Did you always know you wanted to teach?" "Pretty much. My second-grade teacher, Mrs. Collins, changed my life." I smile at the memory. She was the first person who understood my love of books wasn't just about escaping. It was about connecting. "Is that why you came back to North Carolina? To teach here?" "Partly. I also wanted to stay close to Aunt Hazel." I reach into the playpen to scoop up Midnight, who's trying to escape. She was all the family I had after my parents moved to Arizona. Though she wasn't always supportive of my dating choices. Especially Craig. Gray's eyebrow raises. "Motorcycle Craig?" "The one Mrs. Peterson mentioned." "What's the story there?" "Classic good girl meets bad boy disaster." I settle Midnight against my chest, where she immediately begins purring. I was going through a rebellious phase after a string of boring dates Aunt Hazel arranged. Craig seemed exciting with his tattoos and motorcycle. Let me guess. Not as exciting in reality? Oh, he was exciting all right. Especially when he borrowed my credit card and tried to buy parts for his bike. I shake my head at the memory. That was the end of my bad boy phase. Gray's expression darkens. "Sounds like you've dealt with your share of disappointments." That's putting it mildly. The rain picks up, drumming more insistently against the roof. After Craig came the accountant who talked about tax codes all through dinner. Then the guy Aunt Hazel swore was perfect. Turned out he was looking for someone to help raise his 4 kids while his ex-wife found herself in Colorado. And the guy who brought his mother? Gray prompts, clearly remembering my earlier story. Harold. I can't help but laugh. His mother ordered for both of them and spent the entire meal asking me about my domestic skills and whether I wanted a big family. Gray winces. No wonder you needed a fake boyfriend. What about you? I ask, curious about the man behind the professional facade. Any dramatic relationship history I should know about? He's quiet for a moment, his focus on Ginger as she attempts to climb his arm. Nothing quite as colorful. My last serious relationship ended about a year ago. Caroline. We were together for 2 years. What happened? She's a surgeon. Dedicated to her career, which I respected. I'm similarly focused on mine. He shrugs, but there's a tension in his shoulders that wasn't there before. Eventually we realized we were more like roommates than partners. Passion wasn't a priority for either of us. Something about the way he says it makes me wonder. You make it sound very practical. That's how I approached it. Logical compatibility, similar goals. His voice is carefully neutral. Caroline said once that I was more emotionally connected to my patients than to her. Was she right? His eyes meet mine, surprisingly vulnerable. Probably. I've never been good at this. He gestures vaguely between us. Opening up. Taking risks. You seem to be doing fine right now, I say softly. The air between us shifts, charged with something I've been trying to ignore since that almost kiss in my living room days ago. Midnight, sensing the change, jumps from my arms to join her siblings. You deserve better, Gray says suddenly. Better than what? Than Craig. Or Harold and his mother. Or any of those other guys who couldn't see what was right in front of them. His voice is low, intense in a way I've never heard before. You deserve someone who appreciates how extraordinary you are. My breath catches in my throat. Gray. I know this isn't real, he continues, moving closer until we're side by side against the sofa. I know we have an arrangement, an agreement. But, Josie. He reaches up, his fingers tracing my cheekbone with a touch so gentle it makes me shiver. I can't stop thinking about you. The confession hangs between us, honest and raw. Rain drums against the windows, and somewhere in the kitchen, the refrigerator hums. But all I can focus on is Gray's face, so close to mine, his eyes dark with an emotion I've been afraid to name. I can't stop thinking about you either, I whisper. His thumb brushes across my lower lip, and my eyes flutter closed at the sensation. I can smell the clean scent of his soap, feel the warmth radiating from him, hear the slight catch in his breathing. This complicates things, he murmurs, his voice a low rumble I can almost feel in my own chest. Everything about you has complicated things from the moment I walked into the clinic, I admit. When his lips finally meet mine, it's gentle, a question more than a demand. His hand cradles my face as if I'm something precious, something that might break or disappear if held too tightly. I taste mint and something uniquely him, feel the slight roughness of evening stubble against my skin, hear the soft sound he makes when my hand finds its way to the nape of his neck. The kiss deepens, and with it, every pretense we've maintained crumbles away. There's nothing fake about the way his arm wraps around my waist, drawing me closer. Nothing rehearsed in how perfectly we fit together, or how naturally my fingers thread through his hair. The taste of him, the warmth, the solidness. It's all gloriously, terrifyingly real. When we finally break apart, I'm breathless, my heart hammering against my ribs. Gray's eyes are darker than I've ever seen them, his usual composed expression replaced by something almost dazed. That was. He begins. Not part of our arrangement, I finish, my voice unsteady. His hand is still at my waist, warm through the thin fabric of my shirt. No, it wasn't. Outside, the rain continues its steady rhythm, but inside, everything has changed. The careful boundaries we established, the pretense we maintained, the lies we told ourselves. None of it matters in the wake of that kiss. What happens now? I ask, afraid of the answer. Before Gray can respond, a crash from the playpen pulls our attention away. Patches has knocked over the small water dish, and all 5 kittens are scrambling to avoid the puddle. We move in practiced unison to clean up the mess and resettle the kittens, our hands occasionally brushing, sending sparks along my skin with each contact. The air between us is charged with unspoken words and possibilities neither of us is ready to acknowledge. Later, as Gray prepares to leave, we stand awkwardly at my front door. The rain has stopped, leaving the world outside fresh and glistening under the street lights. Josie, about what happened, he starts. It's okay, I interrupt, suddenly afraid of what he might say. We got caught up in the moment. It doesn't have to change anything. Right. Of course. But as he leans in to kiss my cheek goodnight, his lips lingering longer than necessary, we both know it's a lie. Everything has changed. The only question is whether we're brave enough to admit it.
Chapter 6. Gray. And what sound does a snake make? I ask, holding up the picture book so the children can see the colorful illustration. Hisses. 24 second graders respond in unison, several of them adding enthusiastic hand gestures that look more like swimming than slithering. That's right. I turn the page, finding myself genuinely enjoying this departure from my usual morning rounds. Now, who can tell me what sound a frog makes? Ribbit! Ribbit, they chorus, bouncing in their seats. From her desk at the side of the classroom, Josie watches with a smile that makes my chest tighten in a now familiar way. When she invited me to be a guest reader for her class's Animal Week, I'd hesitated, using the clinic schedule as an excuse. But something in her expression, hopeful, warm, tinged with a vulnerability I was beginning to recognize, had me rearranging appointments to make it work. It's been 3 days since that kiss in her living room. 3 days of pretending it didn't fundamentally shift something between us. 3 days of catching her looking at me when she thinks I won't notice, of finding excuses to touch her hand or brush against her shoulder, of imagining what might happen if we allowed ourselves to acknowledge the growing reality beneath our pretense. Dr. Hayes, do you take care of frogs at your animal doctor office? Asks a small girl in the front row, her glasses slightly too big for her face. I mostly care for pets like cats and dogs, I explain, but I've treated frogs before. They have very special needs because their skin is different from ours. My brother has a frog, announces a boy near the back. It eats bugs. Several children respond with delighted disgust. Insects are a natural part of a frog's diet, I say, slipping into educational mode. Just like how your cat or dog needs food that's right for them. Like the baby kittens Ms. Monroe is taking care of, asks another child. I glance at Josie, who nods encouragingly. She's been sharing updates about our kittens with her class, turning the rescue into an educational opportunity. Exactly like that, I confirm. The kittens are too young to eat solid food, so they need special milk from a bottle. Ms. Monroe showed us pictures, a girl with pigtails announces proudly. She says you're helping her be their mom and dad. Something warm unfurls in my chest at the innocent characterization. Mom and dad. To 5 tiny creatures who depend on us, who have brought us together in ways I never anticipated. That's right, I say, my voice softer than intended. We're taking care of them together. I catch Josie's gaze across the classroom, and the look that passes between us holds the weight of everything we haven't said. The vulnerability in her eyes makes me want to cross the room, to tell these children and anyone else who will listen that what began as pretend has become the most real thing in my life. Instead, I clear my throat and turn the page. Now, who knows what sound an elephant makes? The rest of the reading session passes in a blur of animal sounds and enthusiastic questions. These children, with their boundless curiosity and uninhibited enthusiasm, remind me why I became a veterinarian in the first place. To nurture, to heal, to protect creatures who can't speak for themselves. When the bell rings for recess, the children line up with practiced efficiency, each thanking me as they file past. The small girl with oversized glasses lingers. Dr. Hayes? Yes? Are you Ms. Monroe's boyfriend for real or just pretend real? She asks with startling directness. I blink, caught completely off guard. What makes you ask that? She shrugs. My mom says people sometimes pretend things even when they're grown-ups. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Josie freeze, her attention fixed on our conversation while pretending to straighten papers. Well, I say carefully, sometimes things that start as pretend can become real if you give them enough time and care. Like a seed that grows into a flower. The girl considers this, then nods seriously. Like in our science experiment. Exactly like that. Satisfied, she skips off to join her classmates. When the room is empty except for Josie and me, a weighted silence falls between us. Sorry about that, she says finally. Kids have no filters. It's fine. I help her gather the scattered pillows from the reading corner. She's observant. Too observant, Josie murmurs. Thank you for coming today. The kids loved it. I enjoyed it more than I expected, I admit. They're refreshing. Everything is so straightforward with children. Unlike adults, she says with a rueful smile. Unlike adults, I agree, thinking of the tangled web we've created for ourselves. Josie moves to the windows, watching her students on the playground. The morning sunlight catches in her hair, turning it to gold, and I'm struck by how at home she looks here, surrounded by colorful artwork and the organized chaos of young learning. You're good at this, I say, joining her at the window. Teaching. Nurturing. Making people feel safe enough to explore. She looks up at me, surprise in her eyes. Thank you. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said about my teaching. Without overthinking it, I reach for her hand, lacing our fingers together. It's a small gesture, but in this quiet classroom, it feels significant. An acknowledgement of something neither of us has been brave enough to name. I mean it, I say softly. You have a gift, Josie. Her fingers tighten around mine. It doesn't feel like work when you love what you do. No, I agree, thinking of the satisfaction I find in my own profession, the peace that comes with knowing I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. It doesn't. Except lately, the clinic hasn't been the only place that feels right. Josie's cottage with its kitten nursery, her aunt's dinner table with its lively conversation, and now this colorful classroom, they've all begun to feel like places I belong. And that's dangerous. Because belonging isn't part of the plan. It never was. Penny for your thoughts? Josie asks, studying my expression. I was thinking how easy it would be, I say before I can stop myself. What would? Staying. The word hangs between us, loaded with implications neither of us is prepared to face. Josie's eyes widen slightly, hope and fear battling in her expression. Before she can respond, the classroom door swings open, and a teaching assistant pokes her head in. Josie, Principal Winters is looking for you. I'll find her in a minute, Josie says, her voice impressively steady despite the intensity of our interrupted moment. When we're alone again, the spell is broken. I release her hand and step back, rational thought reasserting itself like a cold shower. I should get back to the clinic, I say, checking my watch. I have appointments this afternoon. Of course. She walks me to the door, professional once more. Thank you again for reading to the class. It meant a lot to them. And to you? The question slips out before I can consider its wisdom. Her smile is soft, genuine in a way that makes my heart ache. And to me. As I walk back to my car through the elementary school hallways decorated with spring art projects and science fair posters, I can't shake the feeling that I'm leaving something essential behind. Not just Josie, but a version of myself I'm only beginning to discover. Someone who reads to children and falls in love with kittens and allows himself to be known. Someone who belongs. The thought should terrify me. My life is mapped out. 3 months in Juniper Falls, then back to Boston for the fellowship I've worked toward for years. The path is clear, logical, exactly as I planned it. So why does the idea of following it suddenly feel like a loss?
Chapter 7. Josie. What about this one? Gray asks, turning his laptop so I can see the spreadsheet he's created. The Wilsons have a 10-year-old daughter, a fenced backyard, and their last cat lived to be 19. I lean closer, my shoulder brushing his as we sit at my kitchen table. The familiar warmth of his presence has become both a comfort and a complication over the past few weeks. They'd be perfect for Patches, I say, watching the calico kitten batting at a toy mouse across the room. At 6 weeks old, the kittens have transformed from helpless newborns into playful, distinctive personalities. She needs an active family who can keep up with her energy. Gray makes a note in his meticulous spreadsheet. Wilson's, potential match for Patches. The document is filled out with the same precision he brings to his medical charts. It's both endearing and painful to watch him plan the kittens' futures with such care, knowing he's planning his own future away from here. Away from me. That leaves Midnight, he says, scrolling down. Any preferences for her placement? Midnight, the smallest of the litter, has become my special favorite. Those first tenuous days when we weren't sure she'd survive created a bond that feels impossible to break. I was thinking. I hesitate, unsure how to broach this subject. What if I kept her? Gray looks up, surprise evident in his expression. You want to adopt her? Is that crazy? I twist my hands in my lap. I've gotten attached. And Herbert could use the company. It's not crazy at all. His smile softens his features. Midnight's lucky to have you. To have us, I correct automatically. We saved her together. Something flickers across his face, a shadow of the same unspoken thing that's been hovering between us since that kiss. Since before that, if I'm honest with myself. We did, he agrees quietly. Outside, spring rain begins to tap against the windows, creating a cozy backdrop to the moment. The kittens have settled into a pile for their afternoon nap, tiny bodies curled together in the way they've slept since birth. It's going to be strange, I say, watching them. When they're all gone. Well, except for Midnight. You've done an amazing job with them. We have, I counter, not letting him minimize his role. I couldn't have done it without you. He closes his laptop, his expression turning thoughtful. They'll have good homes. That's what matters. And what about you? The question slips out before I can consider its wisdom. What about me? Where will your home be? After. I gesture vaguely, not wanting to say the words. Gray is silent for a moment, his eyes fixed on the sleeping kittens. Boston. The fellowship starts in July. Right. I nod, as if this isn't tearing me apart inside. But you mentioned staying. At school the other day. I did, he acknowledges. Did you mean it? I hold my breath, hating how vulnerable the question makes me feel. Gray runs a hand through his hair, a gesture I've come to recognize as a sign of internal conflict. Josie. It's a simple question, Gray. But it isn't simple at all. Nothing about us has been simple from the moment he walked into my life. I meant that it would be easy to stay, he says finally. Easier than I expected when I first arrived. Hope flickers in my chest, a dangerous, fragile thing. And that complicates things. He meets my gaze directly, his eyes troubled. My whole career has been building toward this fellowship. It's what I've worked for. I understand that. And I do. I respect ambition, dedication to a path. But plans can change. People change. Do they? There's a genuine question in his voice, as if he's trying to figure this out for himself as much as for me. I think they do. When there's a good enough reason. The unspoken question hangs between us. Am I a good enough reason? Gray stands, moving to the window to watch the rain. The physical distance he puts between us feels symbolic, a preparation for the greater distance to come. When I came to Juniper Falls, I had a clear plan, he says, his back to me. Cover for Dr. Anderson for 3 months, strengthen my CV, return to Boston for the fellowship. Simple. Straightforward. And now? I prompt when he falls silent. He turns to face me, and the conflict in his expression makes my heart ache. Now I find myself thinking about things I never considered before. A small town practice. A community where people know each other. A different kind of life. Hope blooms stronger in my chest. You could have that here. Dr. Anderson mentioned retirement. That was never the plan, Josie. His voice is gentle but firm. I need to be realistic. The hope withers as quickly as it blossomed. Realistic, I repeat, the word tasting bitter. I'd build my career towards specialization, research, working at the forefront of veterinary medicine. That's not possible in Juniper Falls. Right. I stand too, needing movement to mask the trembling I can feel starting in my hands. Of course. That makes perfect sense. Josie. No, really. I understand. I force a smile that feels like it might crack my face. We had an agreement from the beginning. 3 months. A temporary arrangement. Our arrangement has become. He searches for the right word, complicated. It doesn't have to be. I busy myself with straightening the already neat stack of adoption applications on the table. We're adults. We got caught up in the moment with the kittens, the pretending. It's natural. Is that what you think this is? There's an edge to his voice now. Getting caught up in the moment? I meet his gaze steadily, though it costs me. What else could it be? You're leaving. So what does it matter what this is or isn't? He flinches slightly, as if my words have physical weight. It matters to me. Then stay. The challenge hangs between us, raw and honest. If it really matters, stay. Gray's expression shifts through a range of emotions, pain, longing, regret, before settling into something carefully controlled. I can't make that decision based on feelings, Josie. That's not how I operate. And there it is. The fundamental difference between us that no amount of pretending, or even real feeling, can bridge. I operate on heart, he operates on logic. I leap, he analyzes. I believe in possibilities. He believes in plans. After he's gone, I sink onto the sofa, the pretense of composure crumbling like a sandcastle at high tide. Midnight, as if sensing my distress, leaps into my lap and begins to purr. I stroke her soft fur as the first tears slip down my cheeks. Just you and me soon, little one, I whisper. Like we planned. The adoption meet and greet with the Thompsons went better than I could have hoped. Their 8-year-old twins fell in love with Marmalade and Ginger instantly, and even Mr. Thompson, who insisted he was just a dog person, was caught sneaking the orange tabby's treats when he thought no one was looking. Gray never showed up. Now, hours later, I sit at my kitchen table with my laptop open, absently stroking Midnight, who's curled in my lap. I should be grading spelling tests, but I can't focus. Not after our conversation this morning. Not with the weight of unspoken words sitting heavy in my chest. Instead, I find myself searching online for information about kitten development. Midnight seems small for her age, and I want to make sure I'm doing everything right once the others have gone to their new homes. Once I'm doing this alone. A veterinary blog recommends several articles about nutrition for underweight kittens. I click through, scanning for useful information, when a headline catches my eye: Rising Stars in Veterinary Medicine, 10 Specialists to Watch. Gray's name jumps out at me from the page. My finger hovers over the link, hesitating. I shouldn't read it. Nothing good can come from this. But curiosity wins out, and I click. The article opens with a glossy professional photo of Gray in a lab coat, looking every inch the serious doctor I first met. His expression is confident, focused. So different from the man who laughs at kitten antics on my living room floor. Dr. Grayson Hayes represents the future of veterinary medicine, the article begins. Currently completing a rural rotation in Juniper Falls, Vermont, Dr. Hayes has plans to join the prestigious Westwood Animal Research Center in Boston this summer as their newest fellow. My stomach tightens. There's nothing surprising about this information, but seeing it in print makes it feel more real, more inevitable. The Juniper Falls appointment has been a valuable stepping stone, the article quotes him directly. Working in a rural setting forces you to be resourceful, but I'm excited to return to cutting-edge medicine where the real advances are happening. I read the sentence again, the words burning into my brain. A stepping stone. That's all Juniper Falls is to him. All I am. When asked about his future plans, Dr. Hayes was clear, this rural detour has its charms, but my focus remains on specialized medicine and research. After 3 months in Juniper Falls, I'll be more than ready to get back to Boston and the work that matters. The work that matters. As if what he does here, what we all do here, doesn't matter. The interview, conducted last week, reveals a promising young veterinarian with clear goals and unwavering focus. Last week. Not when he first arrived. Last week. After our kiss. After he read to my students. After everything that's happened between us. Midnight meows, disturbed by my sudden tension. I closed the laptop with more force than necessary, my vision blurring with unwelcome tears. All this time, while I've been falling for him, he's been counting the days until he can leave this rural detour behind and get back to the work that matters. My phone buzzes with a text. Gray. Sorry, I missed the Thompsons. Emergency surgery ran long. On my way over now with dinner. Chinese okay? The casual normalcy of it twists the knife deeper. I don't respond, but 20 minutes later, a knock at my door announces his arrival. When I open it, Gray stands there with a paper bag of takeout and an apologetic smile that would have melted me yesterday. Hey, he says, studying my expression. Everything okay? The Thompsons loved marmalade and ginger, I say, stepping back to let him in. The adoption paperwork is all set. That's great news. He sets the food on the counter, pulling out containers. Sorry again for missing it. Mrs. Davidson's retriever swallowed a tennis ball. Complicated extraction. Is the dog okay? He'll be fine. Gray's expression softens with professional pride. It was touch and go for a bit, but we managed. I watch him move around my kitchen with the easy familiarity of someone who belongs here. I saw your interview, I say finally, the words dropping like stones into still water. Gray pauses in the act of dishing out lo mein. Interview? Rising stars in veterinary medicine, I quote. Congratulations. Quite an honor. His expression shifts as understanding dawns. Josie. A rural detour, Gray? A stepping stone? The hurt in my voice is raw, unmistakable. Is that what these past weeks have been to you? He sets down the carton of food, his movements deliberate. That interview doesn't reflect. Doesn't reflect what? Your real feelings? Because it sounds exactly like what you told me earlier. I cross my arms, trying to hold myself together. You never intended to stay. From the beginning, we've just been a charming rural experience before you get back to the work that matters. That's not fair. His voice is quiet, controlled. The context of that interview was professional, not personal. And that's supposed to make me feel better? That professionally, you can't wait to leave, but personally. I shake my head. What, Gray? Personally what? He runs a hand through his hair, frustration evident in the gesture. Personally, this has become complicated. You know that. No, actually, I say, a strange calm settling over me despite the storm inside. I think it's very simple. You've always been clear about your plans. The fellowship. Boston. Your career trajectory. That interview just confirmed what I should have accepted from the beginning. The interview was given weeks ago, Josie. The article says last week. He looks genuinely confused. That's impossible. I spoke with that reporter my second week here. Before. He gestures between us, not finishing the sentence. Before what? Before you decided to play house with the small-town teacher? Before you kissed me? Before you let me think, even for a moment, that you might be considering something real here? Is that what you think this has been? Playing house? There's hurt in his eyes now, matching my own. That's not fair. What's not fair is letting me fall for you when you always knew, you were leaving. The admission slips out before I can stop it. Fall for you. The truth I've been avoiding even with myself. Gray steps toward me, but I back away, needing distance. Josie, please. Let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. I wrap my arms tighter around myself. Our arrangement is officially over, Gray. You don't need to pretend anymore. I'm not pretending, he says, his voice rough with emotion. No? Then tell me you're staying. My challenge hangs in the air between us. Tell me you've changed your plans. Tell me Juniper Falls and what we have here matters more than Boston and your fellowship. His silence is answer enough. That's what I thought. I move to the door, opening it. I think you should go. Josie. Please, Gray. My voice cracks despite my efforts to stay composed. I need you to leave. I can't do this anymore. He looks at me for a long moment, conflict written across his face. Finally, he nods once, his expression shuddering. If that's what you want. It's what I need, I correct him. I need to protect myself from more heartbreak when you leave. Because you are leaving. You always were. Gray pauses at the threshold. What about the kittens? Of course he would think of them, even now. I'll handle the remaining adoptions. You've done more than enough. And us? The question nearly breaks me. There is no us, Gray. There never really was. Something in his eyes fades, like a light being dimmed. Without another word, he walks away, his footsteps heavy on the porch steps.
Chapter 8. Gray. I stare at the dog's chart without really seeing it, my mind elsewhere for the third time today. Mrs. Jenkins asked a question about her retriever's arthritis medication, and I have no idea what she said. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I ask, forcing myself to focus. She gives me a sympathetic look that tells me this isn't the first time she's noticed my distraction. I was asking if we should increase his dosage. He seems to be having more trouble on the stairs. Right. I flip through the chart, grateful for the notes I made during our last visit. Let's try a slight increase and reassess in 2 weeks. After Mrs. Jenkins leaves, I sink into my office chair, rubbing my eyes. It's been 5 days since Josie ended our arrangement. 5 days of going through the motions. 5 days of catching myself reaching for my phone to text her about a patient or a kitten update, only to remember there's no reason to do that anymore. 5 days of realizing how completely she had woven herself into the fabric of my life. A knock at the door interrupts my thoughts. Dr. Hayes? Your next appointment is here, and Brenda, the receptionist, hesitates. Hazel Elliott is asking to see you. Says it's important. My stomach tightens. Send her in, please. Moments later, Hazel appears in my doorway, expression unreadable behind her cat-eye glasses. Dr. Hayes. Ms. Elliott. Please, come in. I gesture to the chair across from my desk, bracing myself for whatever's coming. She settles into the seat, studying me with the same piercing gaze that intimidated me at our first meeting. You look terrible. I almost laugh at the bluntness. Thank you. It's been a busy week. I'm sure it has. She places a folder on my desk. Adoption paperwork for the last 2 kittens. Josie asked me to drop it off. Apparently, all 5 have homes now. That's good. I reach for the folder, needing something to do with my hands. They deserve good families. Yes, they do. Hazel continues to watch me, making no move to leave. Interesting thing about families is that they come in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes they find you when you're not looking. I meet her gaze, knowing we're no longer talking about kittens. Hazel. My niece is miserable, she interrupts. And from the looks of it, so are you. It's complicated. Only because you're making it complicated. She leans forward. Tell me something, Dr. Hayes. Are you happy with your life in Boston? The question catches me off guard. I haven't been back to Boston in months. That's not what I asked. Before you came here, were you happy there? I consider the question, surprising myself with my hesitation. My life in Boston was exactly what I'd worked for. I was satisfied professionally. And personally? The silence stretches between us as I search for an answer that doesn't feel like a lie. I didn't have much of a personal life, I admit finally. The job consumed most of my time. Hazel nods, as if I've confirmed something she already knew. And here in Juniper Falls? Before this week? An image of Josie appears in my mind, laughing as she bottle feeds a kitten, her hair catching the morning light, the warmth in her eyes when she looks at me. The evening conversations that stretch late into the night. The feeling of belonging I'd never experienced before. Here was, unexpected, I say quietly. Life usually is, when it's worth living. Hazel stands, smoothing her skirt. You know, I've lived in this town my entire life. Watched people come and go. The ones who stay, and the ones who are happiest, aren't necessarily those with the most impressive careers or the biggest ambitions. What are you saying? I'm saying you're running away from happiness, Dr. Hayes. Her voice is surprisingly gentle despite the directness of her words. And for what? A fellowship? Another line on your resume? Will that keep you warm at night? It's not that simple. My entire career. Your career will be there, wherever you decide to plant your roots. She moves toward the door, then pauses. Dr. Anderson called me yesterday. Did you know he's officially retiring? My head snaps up. What? Said something about New Zealand agreeing with him too much to leave. She gives me a pointed look. The practice will need someone permanent. Someone who understands both medicine and people. I can't just. Can't? Or won't? She raises an eyebrow. There's a difference, you know. Before I can respond, she opens the door and leaves. My hand hovers over the door to the classroom, hard hammering in my chest. Through the small window, I see Josie at the front of the room, gesturing animatedly as she reads from a picture book. Her students watch with rapt attention, completely absorbed in the story. This is crazy. I should wait until after school. Or call first. Or do literally anything other than interrupt her class. But I'm done waiting. Done overthinking. Done letting fear dictate my choices. Before I can talk myself out of it, I knock. Josie pauses mid-sentence, looking up with a small frown. When she sees me through the window, her expression freezes in surprise. She sets down her book and moves to the door, opening it just enough to speak without disturbing her class. Gray? What are you doing here? I need to talk to you, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. She glances back at her students, who are now whispering among themselves, curiosity sparked. I'm in the middle of class. Can it wait until? No, I interrupt gently. It can't wait. Not anymore. Something in my expression must convey my urgency, because after a brief hesitation, she steps back, opening the door wider. Class, we have a visitor, she announces, her professional teacher voice not quite hiding her confusion. You remember Dr. Hayes from our Animal Week. The animal doctor, several children exclaim with recognition. That's right. Josie's eyes don't leave mine. Dr. Hayes has something he'd like to share with us. I step into the classroom, suddenly aware of 24 pairs of eyes watching me with undisguised interest. One small face stands out. The girl with oversized glasses who asked if Josie and I were real or just pretend real. This wasn't part of the plan. I'd rehearsed what to say to Josie, not to an audience of 7-year-olds. But maybe there's a certain rightness to having these witnesses. Thank you, Ms. Monroe. I clear my throat, turning to face her directly. I came to tell you something important. Josie's expression is guarded, but I catch a flicker of something in her eyes. I've been doing a lot of thinking, I begin. About plans and choices and what really matters. A small boy in the front row raises his hand. Yes, Tyler? Josie acknowledges. Is this about the kittens? He asks earnestly. Sort of, I say, grateful for the opening. It's about the kittens, and this town, and especially about Ms. Monroe. The children exchange glances, picking up on the tension in the room even if they don't understand its source. When I came to Juniper Falls, I had a plan, I continue, focusing on Josie. I was going to be here for exactly 3 months, then return to Boston for a fellowship I've been working toward for years. Everything was mapped out, scheduled, certain. Josie's expression softens slightly. Gray. Please, let me finish. I take a deep breath. Then I met you. And 5 orphan kittens. And everything changed. Did the kittens make you sad? Asks a small girl with pigtails. No, I smile at her. They made me happy. Happier than I'd been in a very long time. But I was too stubborn to admit it. I moved closer to Josie, no longer caring about our audience. I told Dr. Anderson yesterday that I'm not taking the fellowship in Boston. I'm staying in Juniper Falls. Josie's eyes widen. You're what? I'm staying. If his offer still stands, I'll be taking over the practice. I reach for her hand, relieved when she doesn't pull away. But more importantly, I'm choosing this town. This life. You. Dr. Hayes, she says, her voice barely above a whisper, you can't make a decision like this based on feelings? I finish for her with a smile. That's exactly what I'm doing. For once in my life, I'm making a choice based on what makes me happy, not what looks best on a resume. The girl with glasses raises her hand, waving it enthusiastically. Yes, Emma? Josie acknowledges, not taking her eyes off mine. Does this mean you're real now? Not pretend real? Emma asks. A startled laugh escapes Josie, breaking the tension. That's a very good question. I kneel down to Emma's eye level. It means I was pretending not to care, when really, I cared too much. I was scared of how real it felt. Emma nods sagely, as if this makes perfect sense. Grown-ups are silly sometimes. Yes, we are, I agree, standing up to face Josie again. I've been especially silly. That interview you read, those were the words of someone who hadn't yet realized what he found here. Someone still clinging to old plans because he was afraid to make new ones. And now? Josie asks, her voice steadier. Now I know what I want. I want mornings with you and the kittens. Weekend walks by the lake. Family dinners at your aunt's house. Reading to your class on Animal Week. I gesture around the room. I want this life, Josie. Our life. Her eyes shine with unshed tears. Gray, are you sure? The fellowship. There will be other fellowships. Other opportunities. But there's only one you. I take both her hands in mine. I love you, Josie Monroe. And I'm done pretending otherwise. The class erupts in a chorus of oaths and giggles. One boy covers his eyes dramatically. Josie laughs through her tears. I love you too. She starts to say something more when a commotion erupts from the back of the classroom. A small black streak darts between desks, followed by excited shrieks from the children. Midnight! Josie gasps. The kitten, now considerably larger than when we first found her, has somehow escaped from her carrier by the reading corner and is making a mad dash for freedom, weaving between chair legs and backpacks. She's getting away, a boy shouts. Get her, cries another. Within seconds, The orderly classroom descends into chaos as children leap from their seats, scrambling after the elusive kitten. Desks shift, papers fly, and laughter fills the air as midnight leads them on a merry chase. Josie turns to me with an expression of mingled exasperation and joy. "See what you've started?" "Worth it," I say, unable to stop smiling. And then, amid the chaos of 24 children and one escaped kitten, Josie steps forward, wraps her arms around my neck, and kisses me. Everything else falls away: the classroom, the children, the running kitten. There's only Josie, warm and real in my arms, her lips soft against mine, her body fitting perfectly against me like she was always meant to be there. When we break apart, breathless and grinning, the children have gone suspiciously quiet. They stand in a semicircle, watching us with expressions ranging from disgust to fascination. Emma holds a squirming Midnight in her arms, looking entirely too pleased with herself. "Ms. Monroe and Dr. Hayes are definitely real," she announces to the class with authority. Real," I confirm, keeping my arm around Josie's waist. "And staying that way." Josie rests her head on my shoulder, a gesture so simple yet so profoundly right that I wonder how I ever considered walking away from this. From her.
Epilogue. Josie. Juniper Falls, 1 year later. And this, I say, kneeling to stroke the sleek gray cat eyeing the crowd warily from her perch, is Misty. She's 3 years old and loves windowsills and classical music. I'm not making that up, Dr. Hayes tested it. She purrs to Mozart. The elderly woman considering adoption leans closer, her eyes softening. My late husband loved Mozart. We used to play it every evening. Something passes between woman and cat. A moment of quiet recognition that makes my heart swell. I've witnessed this magic dozens of times today, but it never gets old. I love it when the right pet finds the right person. Would you like to spend some time with her in the quiet room? I ask, already knowing the answer. When they're settled in the area Gray set up specifically for nervous animals and potential adopters to get acquainted, I return to the bustling clinic lobby. The annual adoption festival is in full swing, with pets from 3 counties filling every available space. Volunteers in bright blue shirts guide visitors between dog runs and cat condos, while children squeal with delight at the rabbit pen. At the center of it all stands Gray, kneeling to help a young boy tentatively pet a 3-legged golden retriever. His veterinarian's coat is gone, replaced by jeans and a Hayes Veterinary Clinic polo, casual yet unmistakably in charge. "See? Just approach from his side where he can see you," Gray demonstrates, his voice gentle. "That's it. Perfect." The boy's face lights up when the dog licks his hand. "He likes me." "He sure does," Gray agrees, making a note on his clipboard. "Lucky's been waiting for someone special." I smile, watching him in his element. A year ago, Gray Hayes was counting the days until he could return to Boston's prestigious veterinary hospital. Now, he's the proud owner of a small-town practice that hosts adoption events and offers payment plans for farmers when times are tough. Our eyes meet across the room, and his face softens into the smile he seems to reserve just for me, part affection, part complicity, as if we share the best secret in the world. And maybe we do. The secret of how 5 abandoned kittens and 1 impulsive lie changed everything. Ms. Monroe. Tyler, now a 3rd grader, tugs at my sleeve. "Dr. Hayes said you're in charge of the donation box, and I want to give my allowance." "That's very generous," I say, walking him to the donation table where Aunt Hazel presides over a jar already stuffed with bills. "Josie, dear," Hazel greets me with the satisfied look of someone whose matchmaking skills have been thoroughly validated. "We've already raised enough for the new shelter van. And 17 adoptions so far." 20, Gray corrects, appearing beside me. His hand finds the small of my back, a casual touch that still sends warmth through me. "Mrs. Miller took home both guinea pigs, and I think Mrs. Davidson is about to give Misty a forever home." 20. Hazel beams. "A new record. I couldn't have done it without all of you," Gray acknowledges, his arm slipping around my waist. "Especially this one." Flatterer, I tease, but lean into him all the same. truth teller, he counters with a grin. The afternoon continues in a blur of successful adoptions, happy tears, and the particular joy that comes from knowing animals who've had rough starts are going to loving homes. By 6 o'clock, every dog run is empty, all but 2 cats have been adopted, and even the box turtle that Gray was convinced would be with us forever has found a home with a retired biology teacher. As the last volunteers help clean up, Gray pulls me aside. I have something to show you. Another surprise? I follow him toward the back of the clinic. Your last surprise was remodeling the staff room, which was completely unnecessary but very appreciated. This is different. There's a nervous energy to him that piques my curiosity. Close your eyes. Gray. Humor me. I sigh dramatically but comply, allowing him to guide me through the clinic's back hallway. The sound of a door opening, then closing behind us. The familiar scent of the examination room, but with something else underneath, a sweet, floral hint I can't place. Okay, his voice is close to my ear, sending a pleasant shiver down my spine. Open them. I blink my eyes open to find the exam room transformed. Fairy lights twinkle from the ceiling, and vases of wildflowers cover every surface. But what catches my breath is the small carrier on the exam table, its door open to reveal a tiny bundle of orange and white fur. Gray, I whisper, moving closer. What is this? This, he says, reaching in to gently lift the small kitten, is Blossom. She was left at the clinic door this morning. My heart melts as he places the kitten in my hands. She can't be more than 6 weeks old, her blue eyes still wide with the wonder of the world, her tiny paws kneading against my palm. She's perfect, I murmur, bringing her close to my face. Her fur smells of baby shampoo, suggesting Gray has already given her a bath. Poor little thing, being abandoned. Actually, Gray says, his voice oddly tight, I've been thinking she wasn't abandoned at all. Maybe she was sent. Sent? I look up, confused. To remind us how it all began. He reaches out to stroke the kitten's head with one finger. A year ago, 5 kittens changed everything. Maybe Blossom is here to begin the next chapter. As he speaks, the kitten shifts in my hands, and something glints on her collar, a small silver tag catching the fairy lights. I turn it gently to read the inscription. Will you marry me? My eyes fly to Gray's face, finding him watching me with an expression of such tender vulnerability that my heart nearly stops. Gray. He takes the kitten from my hands, placing her safely back in the carrier before dropping to one knee. From his pocket, he produces a small velvet box. Josie Monroe, he says, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, when you walked into my clinic with a cardigan full of kittens, you turned my carefully ordered life upside down in the best possible way. What started as pretend became the most real thing I've ever known. Tears blur my vision as he opens the box to reveal a vintage-style ring with a sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. I love what we've built together, he continues. I love our morning coffee before work and evening cuddles with midnight. I love how you've made this town feel like home. I love your compassion, your impulsiveness, your ability to see beyond the surface to what matters. He takes a breath. I love you. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? A laugh bubbles up through my tears, not because anything is funny, but because joy this complete demands expression. Yes, I say, throwing my arms around his neck so forcefully that we nearly topple over. Yes, of course yes. His arms encircle me, solid and warm and right, as he rises to his feet, lifting me slightly off the ground in his enthusiasm. When he sets me down, he's grinning wider than I've ever seen. You haven't even seen the ring properly, he points out. I don't care if it's a twist tie, I tell him honestly. But let me see it anyway. He slides the ring onto my finger with hands that tremble slightly. It fits perfectly, the sapphire catching the fairy lights in flashes of deep blue. It was my grandmother's, he explains. My grandfather gave it to her when he opened his first veterinary practice. He said blue was for the leap of faith she took on him. It's beautiful, I whisper, understanding the significance of this family heirloom. I'll treasure it always. From the carrier, Blossom meows plaintively, unhappy about being left out of the celebration. We both laugh, and Gray retrieves her, cradling her between us. She's our first wedding gift, he says. If you want her. If I want her? Gray Hayes, you know me better than that. I stroke the kitten's soft fur. She's already family. Speaking of family, he says, a hint of mischief in his eyes, how do you think Aunt Hazel will react? She'll be insufferably smug, I predict. She'll remind us both that she knew all along. Knew what? He asks, though his smile says he already knows the answer. That sometimes the best things in life start with a little pretending, I say, rising on tiptoe to kiss him. And end with happily ever after. As if in agreement, Blossom begins to purr, the sound vibrating against our joined hands, a tiny heartbeat promising new beginnings and more love than I ever thought possible. Some might call it luck, finding a love like this. But I know better. It wasn't luck that brought Gray Hayes into my life, or that kept him here when he could have left. It was 5 abandoned kittens, 1 impulsive lie, and the courage to let something that began as pretend become perfectly, wonderfully real. Bonus epilogue. Josie. Juniper Falls, another year later. Hold still, dear, Aunt Hazel murmurs, her fingers deftly weaving tiny white flowers into my upswept hair. One more, there. She steps back, satisfaction warming her eyes as she studies her handiwork. Perfect. The woman in the mirror almost doesn't look like me. Hair elegantly arranged, makeup subtle but enhancing, cheeks flushed with a combination of excitement and nerves. The vintage lace dress we found in an Asheville boutique 3 months ago fits as if it was made for me, the delicate pattern catching the late afternoon light that streams through Hazel's bedroom window. What do you think? I ask, smoothing the skirt with suddenly trembling hands. I think, Hazel says, her voice thick with emotion, that you're the most beautiful bride this town has ever seen. A knock at the door interrupts the moment. Emily pokes her head in, already dressed in her maid of honor gown of soft blue. 5 minutes until we need to head down, she announces. And Josie? You might want to see what's happening in the garden. Curiosity piqued, I move to the window overlooking Hazel's backyard. What I see takes my breath away. The transformation is complete. Rows of white chairs line a path strewn with flower petals. White gauzy fabric draped between trees creates the suggestion of walls, shimmering in the golden light of early evening. Fairy lights twinkle from every available surface, ready to illuminate the ceremony as dusk falls. At the end of the aisle stands a simple arch entwined with wildflowers and greenery. The same arch, I realize with a pang of emotion, that stood in Hazel's garden the night Gray and I had our first real conversation. But it's the people that truly make the scene magical. It seems like the entire town has turned out, dressed in their finest, chatting and laughing as they find their seats. Mrs. Peterson directs traffic with authoritative waves, her hat festooned with what appears to be an entire flower garden. Dave helps an elderly couple to their seats while their grandchildren race around, barely contained excitement in their movements. And there, at the front, stands Gray. Even from this distance, I can see how handsome he looks in his suit, hands clasped behind his back as he speaks with. Is that Dr. Anderson? I gasp, spotting the familiar silver-haired figure beside my soon-to-be husband. Flew in from New Zealand yesterday, Hazel confirms with a satisfied smile. Gray wanted it to be a surprise. He came all this way for the wedding? I blink back unexpected tears. He wouldn't have missed it for the world, Hazel says, coming to stand beside me at the window. That young man of yours may have started here temporarily, but he's made quite the impression. He certainly has, I agree softly, watching as Gray laughs at something Dr. Anderson says. The sight of him relaxed and joyful, completely at home in this small town that was supposed to be just a stepping stone, fills me with a warmth that reaches to my toes. 2 years ago, I walked into a veterinary clinic with a cardigan full of abandoned kittens and found myself claiming a complete stranger as my boyfriend. Now, I'm about to make that fake relationship gloriously, permanently real. Life has the strangest way of working out. This, Hazel says, pulling a small velvet box from her pocket, is for you. Something borrowed. Inside rests a delicate silver pin shaped like a cat, its eyes two tiny emerald chips. It was your grandmother's, Hazel explains. She wore it on her wedding day. I thought it appropriate, given how you and Gray found each other. It's perfect, I whisper as she pins it to the satin ribbon at my waist. Thank you. Another knock at the door heralds Emma, my favorite former student, now in 3rd grade. She wears a blue dress that matches Emily's and holds a basket filled with rose petals. Beside her stands Tyler, solemn in his role as keeper of Blossom, who looks remarkably dignified in her floral collar despite being held perhaps a bit too tightly. Ms. Monroe. Emma exclaims. You look like a princess. Thank you, Emma. I bend to stroke Blossom, who purrs in recognition. And thank you for taking such good care of our flower cat. She tried to eat her flowers twice, Tyler reports seriously. But I stopped her. Good job. I straighten, taking a deep breath. Is Midnight ready with the rings? Mr. Dave has her by the back door, Emma confirms. She keeps trying to hide under the chairs, but the ribbon looks really pretty on her. The thought of our formerly tiny rescue kitten, now a sleek adult cat, serving as ring bearer sends a bubble of laughter rising in my chest. Gray had insisted on it. She brought us together, she should be part of making it official. It's time, Hazel says gently, handing me my bouquet of wildflowers, the same varieties Gray and I had planted in the community garden last spring. Are you ready? Am I ready? To marry the man who appeared in my life when I least expected it? Who helped me save 5 tiny lives and, in the process, showed me what real partnership feels like? Who chose small-town life and me over the prestigious career he'd been working toward for years? More than ready, I answer, my voice steady with certainty. The walk from Hazel's house to the garden takes only moments. At the entrance to the makeshift aisle, my students line up in their assigned order. First the youngest ones who will scatter flower petals, then Emma with Blossom, then Emily. From somewhere, the soft strains of violin music begin to play. And then, as if in a dream, we're moving. The faces that turn to watch our procession are all familiar: neighbors, parents of my students, clinic clients, friends. Mrs. Davidson dabs at her eyes with a handkerchief. Mr. Harrison from the hardware store gives me a wink and a thumbs up. Even Mrs. Peterson, whose mistaken assumption started this whole journey, looks genuinely moved. Tyler walks with careful dignity, occasionally whispering something to Blossom, who surveys the proceedings with feline superiority from her basket. When they reach the front, he places Blossom carefully in her designated spot, a small cushion beside where Midnight waits with Dave, looking distinctly unimpressed with the ribbon and tiny pillow attached to her collar. And then it's just me, standing at the beginning of the flower-strewn path, my gaze locked with Gray's. The expression on his face steals my breath, a look of such wonder and love that I feel it like a physical touch. Gone is the reserved, serious doctor I first met. In his place stands a man fully present, fully open, watching me as if I'm a miracle he never expected to find. Each step down the aisle feels both surreal and intensely present. The gentle weight of my dress. The sweet scent of wildflowers. The warmth of the setting sun on my shoulders. The faces of friends and neighbors smiling as I pass. But most of all, Gray's eyes never leaving mine, as if afraid I might disappear if he looks away. When I reach him, he takes my hands in his, and I feel the slight tremble in his fingers that matches my own. Hi, he whispers, just for me. Hi yourself, I whisper back. The ceremony begins, but I'm only half aware of the words. Instead, I'm caught in the gravity of this moment, standing before our community, making real what began as pretend. When it's time for our vows, Gray speaks first, his voice clear and steady despite the emotion I can see in his eyes. Josie, he begins, when I came to Juniper Falls, I had my life mapped out with the precision of a surgical plan. 3 months here, then back to Boston for the fellowship I'd worked toward for years. Simple. Orderly. Certain. His thumb brushes over my knuckles. Then you walked into my clinic with a cardigan full of kittens and completely derailed my careful plans in the best possible way. Ripples of laughter move through the audience. Our relationship may have started as an impulsive lie, he continues, but it became the most honest thing in my life. You taught me that the best plans are the ones with room for the unexpected. That the most valuable work isn't always the most prestigious. That home isn't a place on a map but a feeling you create with the people you love. Tears blur my vision, but I blink them back, not wanting to miss a moment of his face as he speaks. I promised to build our life together with the same care we gave those 5 tiny kittens, with patience, with dedication, with a willingness to lose sleep when necessary. This earns another gentle laugh from the audience. I promise to choose us, every day, over any other path that might appear. And I promise to never forget how lucky I am that you claimed me as your boyfriend that day, even if it was just to escape your aunt's matchmaking. Hey! Hazel's mock indignant voice calls from the front row, and everyone laughs, including me through my tears. When it's my turn, I take a deep breath, centering myself in this perfect moment. Gray, I begin, I've always been the impulsive one. The one who leaps before looking, who follows her heart without consulting her head. It's gotten me into trouble more than once. I smile at him. But the day I claimed you as my boyfriend was the best impulsive decision I've ever made. His eyes crinkle at the corners, the way they do when he's truly happy. You weren't part of my plan either, I continue. I was content with my classroom, my quiet cottage, my independent life. I didn't know I was waiting for someone until you. Someone who balances my impulsiveness with thoughtfulness, who challenges me to be better while accepting me exactly as I am. I squeeze his hands gently. I promise to continue leaping with you, even when the path isn't clear. I promise to create a home where both of us can grow, where we can save as many kittens, or puppies, or turtles, or whatever comes our way, as we can handle. I promise to remind you, on the hard days, why small-town medicine matters just as much as big-city fellowships. His eyes shine with unshed tears, and I feel my own threatening again. And I promise to love you, the real you, not the temporary placeholder you thought you were when you arrived, but the man who chose to stay, who found his place here, with me and Midnight and Blossom and whatever other strays find their way to our door. As if on cue, Midnight chooses this moment to meow loudly, apparently done with her ceremonial duties. The timing is so perfect that laughter ripples through the gathering again, breaking the emotional tension. Dave steps forward with Midnight, who looks distinctly relieved to have the rings removed from her collar. When Gray slides the band onto my finger, joining it with the vintage sapphire engagement ring that once belonged to his grandmother, I feel the weight of history and future combined, of choices made and paths chosen that led us here, to this moment, to each other. By the power vested in me, the officiant says, I now pronounce you husband and wife. When Gray kisses me, it feels like both an ending and a beginning. The closing of one chapter and the opening of another. Around us, cheers erupt, and I'm vaguely aware of Blossom making a break for freedom from her basket, Emma and Tyler darting after her with delighted squeals. But all I can really focus on is Gray, my husband, holding me close as if he never intends to let go. How does it feel, Mrs. Hayes? He whispers against my ear, his breath warm on my skin. Perfect, I tell him, meaning it completely. Absolutely perfect. Because what began with 5 abandoned kittens and 1 impulsive lie has become the truest thing I've ever known. Not bad for a temporary arrangement. Fairy lights transform Hazel's garden into an enchanted wonderland as dusk settles over Juniper Falls. Paper lanterns sway gently in the evening breeze, casting a warm glow over tables draped in white linen and decorated with wildflower centerpieces. The air smells of jasmine and honeysuckle, mingling with the mouth-watering aroma of the buffet dinner being served at the edge of the garden. Gray's hand rests comfortably at the small of my back as we make our way between tables, stopping to accept congratulations, share laughs, and thank everyone for coming. The simple gold band on his finger catches the light each time he gestures, sending a thrill through me every time I notice it. My husband. The words still feel surreal, yet perfectly right. There you are. A booming voice cuts through the gentle hum of conversation. Dr. Anderson approaches, his tan from months in New Zealand making his silver hair appear even brighter. I was beginning to think I wouldn't get a moment with the bride. Dr. Anderson. I accept his warm embrace. I still can't believe you came all this way. And miss seeing this one, he claps Gray on the shoulder, finally make the smartest decision of his life? Not a chance. His eyes twinkle with affection. Though I must say, when I suggested he consider settling in Juniper Falls, I didn't expect him to take it quite so literally. You suggested he stay? I glance at Gray, who has the grace to look slightly sheepish. Mentioned it might be a good fit, Dr. Anderson clarifies. The boy was too stubborn to admit it initially. All Boston this and fellowship that. He mimics Gray's more formal tone with startling accuracy, making me laugh. I came around eventually, Gray defends himself, his arm slipping around my waist. Yes, well. Dr. Anderson's expression softens. Some lessons take longer to learn than others. The important ones usually do. A sharp ping of silverware against glass interrupts us as Dave calls for everyone's attention. If you'll all find your seats, we have a special presentation before dinner. Gray looks as puzzled as I feel as we make our way to the head table. On a screen set up near the dance floor, an image appears, a living room we don't recognize, with a family gathered on a sofa. Hello, Dr. Hayes and Ms. Monroe, I mean, Mrs. Hayes, a familiar voice calls from the speakers. The Wilsons, who adopted Patches, wave enthusiastically from their living room. Curled in their daughter's lap is a sleek calico cat, now fully grown but unmistakably our adventurous Patches. We wanted to wish you congratulations, Mrs. Wilson continues. Patches is doing wonderfully, as you can see. She's the queen of the house. The screen changes to another family, the Thompsons with Marmalade and Ginger, both orange tabbies lounging regally on a cat tree. Happy wedding day, the twins chorus, each holding up a cat. Marmalade and Ginger say meow. One by one, each of our original 5 kittens makes an appearance, their adoptive families sharing updates and well wishes. When Midnight's original siblings have all been accounted for, a final image appears, a collage of all 5 cats alongside photos of them as the tiny, fragile kittens we first rescued. From Little Beginnings. Text appears across the screen, to happily ever after. Tears blur my vision as the lights come up. Gray's hand finds mine under the table, squeezing gently. Surprise, Emily says, grinning from her seat beside me. We've been planning this for weeks. It's perfect, I manage, dabbing at my eyes with my napkin. Thank you. Dinner passes in a blur of delicious food, flowing champagne, and constant interruptions as guests stop by to offer congratulations. Blossom makes herself the center of attention, prowling from table to table in her floral collar, accepting treats and pets with imperious grace. Midnight, freed from her ring-bearer duties, has claimed a spot under Hazel's chair, emerging occasionally to investigate interesting smells from plates above. As coffee and dessert are served, Dr. Anderson rises, tapping his glass for attention. A hush falls over the gathering. For those who don't know me, I'm Robert Anderson, the previous proprietor of what is now Hayes Veterinary Clinic. His voice carries clearly through the garden. When I decided to take a sabbatical last year, I needed someone I could trust with my practice and my patients. Gray Hayes came highly recommended, brilliant clinician, impeccable credentials, dedicated work ethic. He turns to look at us, his expression warm. What his references failed to mention was his capacity for growth. For connection. For recognizing when life offers something more valuable than the next impressive credential. Gray's hand tightens around mine beneath the table. I've practiced medicine for over 40 years, Dr. Anderson continues. And I've learned that the most important skill any doctor can develop isn't found in textbooks or research journals. It's the ability to see beyond the symptoms to the whole patient, and beyond the patient to the whole community. He raises his glass. Gray, you've become the kind of veterinarian this town deserves. Juniper Falls is lucky to have you. But not nearly as lucky as you are to have found Josie. His eyes twinkle. To the happy couple, may your partnership be as successful as the one that saved 5 very fortunate kittens. To Gray and Josie. The toast echoes around the garden as glasses clink. As Dr. Anderson takes his seat, I notice Gray's parents approaching our table. They arrived this morning, barely making it to the ceremony, and we haven't had a chance to speak properly yet. Mom, Dad. Gray stands, his expression warm as they reach us. I'm so glad you could make it. We wouldn't have missed it, his mother says, embracing him. Her elegant appearance speaks of the professional Boston world Gray left behind, but her smile is genuine. The ceremony was lovely. And this must be Josie. Gray's father extends his hand to me. We've heard so much about you. All good things, I hope. I stand to greet them properly. Better than good. Mrs. Hayes studies me with eyes the same shade as Gray's. You're the woman who helped our son find his place in the world. I think he found that himself, I say, glancing at Gray. I just happened to be here when he did. With 5 kittens and a very timely lie, Gray adds with a smile. Don't downplay your role. His parents exchange a glance I can't quite interpret. We owe you an apology, Gray's father says after a moment. We weren't entirely supportive when Gray told us he was staying in Juniper Falls. Giving up the fellowship seemed reckless, his mother supplies. We thought he was making an impulsive decision. But seeing him today, Mr. Hayes continues, seeing this place, these people. We understand now. There's more than one path to a fulfilling life, Mrs. Hayes adds, her gaze softening as she takes in the festive garden, the townspeople dancing and laughing together. I think of the path that led me here, from an impulsive lie to save face, to bottle-feeding tiny kittens at 2 a.m., to falling in love with a man who was supposed to be temporary, and can't help but agree. Sometimes the unexpected paths are the best ones, I say. Gray's arm slips around my waist. Definitely the best ones. After his parents move on to find their table, Gray leads me away from the crowd, toward a quiet corner of the garden where lantern light barely reaches. In the shadows of blooming lilacs, he draws me close, his forehead resting against mine. Happy? He asks softly. Impossibly so. I smile up at him. Are you? More than I knew was possible. His thumb traces the curve of my cheek. A year ago, I was packing to leave. Now I can't imagine being anywhere else. From the direction of the dance floor, Hazel's voice rises above the music, calling for the couple's first dance. But for a moment longer, we stay hidden in our quiet corner, suspended in a private bubble of happiness. They waited for us, Gray says eventually. I suppose we should go dance. I suppose we should. But neither of us moves. Thank you, he says suddenly, his voice low and sincere. For what? For claiming me as your boyfriend that day. For seeing something in me I couldn't see in myself. His eyes hold mine in the dim light. For making what started as pretend into something real. Instead of answering with words, I rise on tiptoe to kiss him, my husband, my partner, the man who chose to stay when leaving would have been easier. The music changes as we finally make our way to the dance floor, the opening notes of At Last drawing appreciative murmurs from the crowd. Gray takes my hand, leading me into a simple waltz that we practiced in my living room for weeks, midnight and blossom weaving figure eights around our legs. As we move together under the stars, the faces of our friends and neighbors blur into a circle of light and love surrounding us. Hazel watches with undisguised satisfaction, Mrs. Peterson dabs at her eyes with a handkerchief, and Dr. Anderson beams like a proud father. By the way, Gray murmurs as he spins me gently. I've been thinking about the clinic. Oh? My hand rests comfortably on his shoulder, where it feels like it has always belonged. The old storage building out back. It would make a perfect space for a permanent rescue center. I pull back slightly to see his face. Are you serious? Completely. His smile is soft in the golden light. I was thinking we could call it second chances. For the animals? I ask. For the animals, he agrees. And for the veterinarian who found his home when he least expected it. As the music swells around us, I lay my head on his shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of him, now mingled with the flowers from the garden and the subtle notes of champagne. In my peripheral vision, I catch a glimpse of Blossom perched regally on an empty chair, watching the proceedings with feline dignity, her floral collar askew but still intact. 5 abandoned kittens. 1 impulsive lie. A love that grew from pretend to real. Not the path either of us planned, but infinitely better than anything we could have imagined. And as Gray and I dance beneath the stars, surrounded by the town that became our home and the people who became our family, I know with absolute certainty, sometimes the best kind of love is the kind that catches you completely by surprise. Just like 5 tiny kittens in a cardigan. The end. This has been Purrfectly Pretend. Written by Susanne Ash. Copyright 2025 by Susanne Ash. Production copyright 2025 by Susanne Ash. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe if you want me to put more of my books on YouTube. Visit my website at www.susanneash.com for more of my books or find me on Amazon.